On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
That's how you're going to grow the business. So
Exactly.
I'm pampering the business more financially than myself. And that's not something that everyone would, because the business is doing really well, right? I could be paying myself a lot more. I could be, I could be spending more money on going on trips and doing this and doing that because there's things I want to do, right? And I will eventually. But right now, my focus is still making the business number one, which is keeping all of the profits in that account and just taking the risk when it comes to making that big purchase for the business.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, Gathering the Kings Nation? I've got a guest, fellow queen today. You guys know that the king is not masculine. It's a mindset. And so Dena Parker today absolutely crushes this show. And I want you guys to hear it because just a couple of months ago, she was not a 7-figure owner. She didn't even think that she would ever be a business owner. Crazy story. I want you to hear it. There's so much gold here. Her mindset is everything. Grab that pen and paper. It's coming down. Let's go. All right, everybody, Gathering the Kings. Chaz Wolfe. I'm your host. And today I've got Miss Parker. Now, Miss Parker. Welcome to the stage. We did this on the first call, but your first name is Dena.
Yes.
And how do people get it wrong?
Because the American way to spell Dena is Dina, and my name, Dena is a German name, and the correct way in Germany to spell it is Dena. So yeah, so everyone says Dina, but it's Dena.
Yeah, I love names are so important, and I like saying them correctly. But obviously, it to your point, and we learned this in our first call that it's super easy to say your name Dana, as you said, as opposed to Dena. So. You don't have to go by Miss Parker. We'll call you Dena the rest. I just wanted to do that as a quick little intro here. But Dena, what kind of business do you have?
So Forever Lawn Mile High, it's an artificial grass company. So we're a premium artificial grass company. That's all we do. Anything with artificial grass, maintenance, repairs, sales, the installation, the whole shebang. Artificial grass, anything to do with it.
Very cool. Yeah, I love. It's like 'tis the season. Well, I guess artificial grass really has all season, but at least the season that people are thinking about grass.
Exactly. We've been lucky this year in Colorado just because the sun's been out a lot. We haven't gotten a ton of snow, which is surprising. So the skiers hate it, but I've been actually really happy because we can install more than typical throughout the winter. Yeah. So that's been good.
Exactly. Yeah. That's great. I can see why the skiers may not share that vision with you.
Right.
But okay, so you've got a really fun story, and I can't wait to get into it. But you're a new owner. It's not a new business. You bought an existing business above the 7-figure mark, and so that's why you're here. And I'm so curious about your story. I want to dive into it because you had a totally different road than a lot of my other guests. More so similar to my story, actually. But at this stage in the game, even though you're new, quote unquote, to the business, what I'm curious about is at this stage in the game, doing this much revenue, why do you continue to push? Like, why do you want more from this business? Because it's not like you bought the business to go flat. Like, you want it to grow.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, in my opinion, everything in life, not even just a business, you should always have the mindset of continuing to grow in some way. So, I took the business over and we're doing the numbers that we're doing. I still want to have 2 to 3 installation crews, which means another 2 trucks and trailers. So it's like goals like that I have now. The goals when it comes to like actually building those relationships, sales, that's kind of just there at this point. Now I'm just trying to figure out how I can get to that next level. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow or next month, but the decisions I'm making today now with where we're at is, how is this going to affect us a year from now? Is this going to grow us? Are we going to stay the same with this decision? So I'm not like in a rush to, be making billions of dollars, but it's more of just like, I want to continue to grow, even if it's a slow growth. I mean, you just should always be growing personally, work related. I just feel like that should be something that's always important to do.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in full alignment on that. And so with you, I mean, I know a little bit of the story from our off air talk, but here's what I would say from a angle of where business started for you is so different. And you didn't even think potentially that you would be a business owner. So tell us, how did you get into this spot where you're now the business owner?
Oh my gosh. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would never have guessed I'm going to be a business owner, even just a year ago from today. Wasn't on my mind. I've always been a salary salesperson, and I'm always been great at what I do. And I've loved working for other people. I've always just been a go-getter. I'm a people pleaser. So when I make my boss happy, it's a good thing for me. So I've always just been a hard worker, and the businesses I've worked for, I've always just treated them as my own, with that mindset. It's just how I was raised, the work mentality I have. So, I know Forever Long Corporate, because it was founded in a small town in Ohio. I actually graduated high school with the CEO's son. When that was back when Forever Long was actually a smaller company, there maybe were only 2 franchises nationwide, but I knew the company. I moved out here 7 years ago for an AT&T job. Account manager, traveled the whole state, great job. And I went back one year for Christmas, and the CEO, Brian Carmy, with Forever Long, he's one of them. They're 2 brothers, but I saw him at a little Mexican restaurant. It's a small town, and he knew I was in Denver, knew I've always been in sales. And he said, "Hey, there's actually someone opening up a franchise for everyone Mile High in Colorado. Like, you've always been in sales. Can I give him your number?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Like, I love my AT&T job though. I don't know how passionate I can get behind grass, because I'm a passionate person. You could probably already tell by how I'm talking. So, I was like, "Yeah, you can get my number." I don't mind working a second job. Maybe if it's something I can do from home, just calling leads, more than happy to help. So about 6 months later, Trey actually reached out. He's the previous owner for Everland Mile High. And I told him the same thing. I said, "Hey, I love my job, but if it's something I can do from home, I'm more than happy to help you out with calling leads, sales, And I'm always
get in where you fit in.
Right. I'm always been someone to, you might hear with other questions down the road, find this out about me, but I did not come from money. So I've always worked 2 jobs, even, when I was younger, big lots and then cleaning houses. So I've always just worked. So I started helping him on the side, and the more I did it, the more I loved it, and found that I was becoming passionate about artificial grass. I mean, who knew there could be 29 different types, and three different types of backings, and different types of insulations, colors. So I just became more.
What part of it did you fall in love with? Like, I mean, the variation, the design of it, like
the everything. I mean, the whole process of it, as in like the relation. Because I've always been. Why I'm good at sales is because I'm good at building relationships. So the building relationships with, on the commercial side of things, with architects and contractors, I became very good at. And then just seeing how many I like finding solutions for things. So we weren't just throwing one product at every artificial grass customer. All right, this is our one product. This is what you get. This is how it works. It was more so, tell me what you need. Why are you looking for artificial grass? And then, okay, this is the product you need and why. So I could actually come up with solutions for customers. And with kids, like I said, we can do colored playgrounds. I mean, that's freaking cool. Like, I wanted a colored playground with mounds when I was a kid and hopscotch built into it.
Wow.
So and then as doing it, learning the opportunity for it when it comes to just growth and the knowledge that's not out there with artificial grass. So one, that's more opportunity because just by getting the knowledge out there, and the money that's in it. I mean, it's when I first started, I was honestly a little surprised on how much money people would spend on artificial grass. Now I'm not. I'll make a bid that's, $80,000 and I don't even blink because it's just, that it was a shock at first 6 years ago when I started working for Trey on the side. But now I'm just like,
makes sense.
So I became, there's so many different reasons. In the process of it, though, seeing the before and after photos, like my favorite photos to post on LinkedIn, you might have seen, are before and after photos. The transition from, dirt yard to a beautiful green grass yard fixes my OCD a little bit. So,
that's right.
But yeah, and then I also just kind of fell away from the big corporate world. I was with Verizon at one point, AT&T, Dish Network, great companies, and I liked my jobs, but you're a fly on the wall, right? You might have, you just don't have a lot of say with things. And when I started to get to know like the franchise world a little bit and how it's more of a family and you make it your own and they actually hear you, it caught my attention. It's a little scary though, because it's a franchise. Something could go wrong tomorrow and it's gone, or so I guess the reason why I held on to my corporate job as long as I did, instead of going to full time with Trey back and then, was it was a big company. I knew it wasn't going anywhere.
Right. Little stability.
That was my mindset for the longest time, was because Trey actually tried to get me to come full time for him for a couple of years. And I was like, no, like I kind of like what we have set up, like working on the side. And, but then, bosses change with the other job and you don't really like who you work for. And, and as I get older, what's important to you changes too. So I told Trey that, about a year and a half ago, I said, I think I'm ready to pull the trigger. If you still want me full time, at least. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, yes, yesterday, like start today. Okay. So, it happened really quick. Then after that, I started working for Trey full time and things were going great. Things were going phenomenal. And then Trey kind of sat me down one day. We got lunch, which was typical because I didn't see him a ton. I lived in Denver. He's in Colorado Springs, which is only an hour away. But so when I go to Colorado Springs, we typically get lunch. And he just said, hey, well, Liz and I we're pregnant with our fifth kid. And I was just like, not really surprised by that because I knew they were always talking about kids. But I was just like, okay, like, wow, like fifth kid, you guys are gonna be busy. And he said, yeah. He goes, Alyssa's kind of thinking about moving back to Western Kansas. That's where they're both from, to have help with the family. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I mean, I feel like I can handle everything. I said, move back to Western Kansas. Like, as long as corporate's okay with me running things in Colorado for you, move back to Western Kansas. You don't do much now anyways, besides payroll, besides like as in payroll and taxes. Like, I didn't mean that in a bad way. Like, here's the foundation, but like, physically, we just didn't need him here.
Look, you gave like the ultimate team member answer. In fact, I've had so many conversations with entrepreneurs who, like, when they receive that response of like, excuse me, Kenny, if you could just get out of the way, we got this. It is no fault of like, you're not doing anything. No. We understand. It's like, no, we've finally empowered somebody to like run. And so anyway, it was a compliment to you and to him. But so you tell him you can run it. And then what? He says what?
He just said, that's kind of what I was thinking. I just need to get approval from corporate and all of that fun stuff. So he went to court, and I knew, like, I graduated with their boys. I was like, their corporate's going to be cool with it. He knew it too. We just, we wanted to do it the right way. So of course, corporate said, yeah, that's fine. So Trey and his wife moved back to Western Kansas. I'm still running things, and, Trey's a lot like me, as we're very hands-on. So, this morning, actually, I told you I was rushing here to meet with you on time because I wanted to stop by and install. I didn't have to. I just am very hands-on. If I have the extra time, I like to stop in on jobs and see things, get photos for, social media. So Trey was the same way. He moved back and he found himself coming back more often than he wanted to. So he's actually spending more time away from his family. Yeah. Because it's only a 3-hour drive, but he would stay in hotels out here, stay with a friend. And so I kind of, he had started making some comments about, hey, have you ever thought about taking over Forever Long Mile High one day? And I said, yeah, maybe one day, but like, no, like, I like how things are going. Like, yeah, things are great. I just started working for you full time.
Right.
And, he just started making comments like, if would you stay working for Forever One Mile High if I ever sold anyone else? And, and so I kind of had a feeling, it was those were pretty obvious questions. So I had a kind of feeling soon he was going to tell me he wanted to step away, which Forever One Mile High was Trey's baby. He did start it from ground up. So in my head too, I'm like, there's no way he just wants to walk away. Like, there's just no way. So one day, this was probably 3 months later. I would say actually this was around September time of last year. I went to the warehouse in Colorado Springs. Trey was sitting there. And I actually started crying before because Trey became a friend. Him and his wife, they became very, very good friends of mine. I respect Trey so much over the years. And I could just tell he was about to ask something. I start crying. I said, just say it. he was like, well, and he was just like, me and Alyssa have been praying a lot about what we're going to do the next chapter of our lives with this fifth kid coming, us being back in Western Kansas. He said an opportunity arose for me to purchase a different business in Western Kansas, and I have to let go of Forever One Mile High. And I tried to guilt him in a little bit for staying and just saying, well, this is like your baby. Like, are you sure? Like, what if you absolutely have to do nothing? Like, you never come. And he was just like, that I will though. And I was like, and I understand. And he said, and I said, well, the first thing I started crying even more. And I was just like, well, how am I going to get approved for a loan? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I just, I was thinking out loud. I was just like, well, maybe there's someone at corporate that would invest until I can purchase it. Or, I was just thinking of all these things out loud. And he goes, and he got a big smile on his face. He's like, that's the thing. He's like, if it's you, I'm willing to work with you and figure out payments, figure out, you don't have to pay me up front. If it's someone else, it'd be a little different. He's like, but you already treat the business like your own. And if anyone's going to grow it, it's you.
Yeah.
I have a couple, because there was other landscape companies that we work with that probably purchase it, but it'd probably go on the back burner, or it'd be just something, that's on the side for them that they can offer. But he goes, I don't want you to feel obligated. If it goes to someone else, we'll definitely make sure that they're willing to keep you on a salary and take care of things. And I was like, you know what? In my head, in my gut, I was just like, if I don't try, I mean, I was scared. I was in that moment. I was freaking out. I'm scared. Like, I've always had a salary job, never not had one. So
and this is the furthest thing from that. You're going to write your own check.
Exactly. But I just said, if I don't try, I will regret it. I have to try. So I told him, I said, listen, I know it's going to be hard, and I'm so scared right now with these words coming out of my mouth, but I'm going to do it. And so I started, from that moment on, I started prepping for January 1, because January 1 was when it was going to be official. So I had already started changing my mindset even more so to be like the actual business owner. And that's when everything just changed.
Yeah, I want to dive into that. But before I do, I want to give a quick recap of your story. So first off, wow. What a roller coaster of going literally from like loyal corporate employee all the way to having a chance to step into a business ownership role. And so what I want the listener to hear here at this moment is that actually twofold from Trey's perspective, which is if you don't plan an exit, and the exit doesn't have to be a sale, although if you're building your business in a way where you know that you can sell it at any time if you were to want to, whether it be to someone else or to someone on your team, that's how you should be building your business, keeping clean books, making sure that you're raising up a team, making sure that you're not always involved, like all these things that you kind of said that he was doing, even though he was coming back. It's because he probably cared more than anything.
Right.
But he built a system around himself that where he could literally physically remove himself, and then someone else could come in. And then therefore, he now has this opportunity where he can move himself on and have a great candidate like yourself. So I think that's number one. Even though the listener is building a 6-figure business right now and they want to get to the 7-figure mark, you still build your business in a way to where you can sell it at any point in time, even if you genuinely think you're going to do it for the next 40 years. And then the second thing is from your perspective of like the team member, it's like, man, you just never really know who you're going to find on your team, especially those salespeople, those crazy salespeople. Because obviously I come from a sales background. They're little entrepreneurs, and depending upon who they are or how they're incentivized, their ownership or their autonomy in your business, as the listener right now, as you're listening to my voice, you can maximize opportunities like, this happened for Dena. So anyway, pick up where you left off there. You said your mindset shifted, obviously from salesperson or employee to owner. But what did that look like for you?
Immediately, my mind went around the financial side of things. I told you, I don't come from money. That's why I've always worked multiple jobs. A little personal side of me, real quick. When the pandemic started, I actually started experiencing horrendous. I was actually on a road trip to the Grand Canyon, and I started getting really, really sick. Thought it was COVID. And it wasn't. Yeah. I was actually sick for a year and a half. It took the doctors 10 months to figure out what was wrong with me. It was actually my gallbladder. Took, crazy. It was crazy. And, so even though I had health insurance, you medical bills, just trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Then I had the gallbladder surgery. I mean, it just added up. And this, so when this happened, financially, I said, I need to start setting small goals until January 1, at least to be in a different place where I'm at right now financially. So my mindset was my goal before January 1 is to get my medical bills paid off, which was not a small bill. But I said, as long as I can get that paid off before January 1, starting as a business owner, that's at least one expense I won't have to worry about anymore. Yep. So, I started door dashing on the side. Immediately. And that's not something I'm proud of. It was not fun. I hated every second of it, but I was so motivated to make this work, to be successful. So if I have to sacrifice my gym time right now, or if I have to sacrifice my yoga classes right now, so I can be working a second job on the weekends and in the evenings, I'm going to do that just so I can pay these medical bills off. And so that's what I did immediately that next day. And Trey knew, Trey also knew personally where I was with that, which is also why he was willing to work with me when it came to, he knew I wasn't planning on owning a business and had a savings to just purchase business. And he also then knew the medical, he knew my medical stuff had been going on and I was paying towards that. So I told him, I said, this is my plan. And he loved it. He's like, that's awesome. And so, I started grinding away at that. I would work my my job for Trey Monday through Friday, sometimes even a little bit on Saturdays. And then when I wasn't working for Trey and for Everyone Mile High, I was door dashing and I was just hustling, and I was able to pay the bills off before January 1. And but that's where my mind initially shifted, was when I told him I would do it. I'm like, okay, I need to pay off my medical bills. Okay, I need to figure out what I can cut back on personally right now. Eventually, also my mind, when it came to financial things, was sacrifices, right? Yeah. As a business owner, this is now, Trey's literally giving me this baby. So I now have to make, when we have kids, you have to make sacrifices.
That's right.
So I was like, okay, what sacrifices can I make? I mean, this might sound silly, but I've been one to always get my nails done every 2 weeks since I was very young. So first thing in my head was like, wow, I can cut off, $40, $80 a month just by not getting my nails done until, I can. And now I'm getting my nails done and I can do it. But at first, that was one of the things that in my head, I'm like, this is a sacrifice. So that was kind of what my mindset transition to when
So I've got a lot of thoughts, but first off, congratulations. I mean, that's setting a target like that and just going after it. But why do you think, and I'm going to circle this around to then helping the listener right now in their current state, but there was something about the next step for you, like taking over the business, that was some sort of a level of either pressure or the fact that you wanted to be ready or not have the debt to make sure that there was cash flow to like even personally to be able to live, depending upon what the deal was with Trey and how much you needed to pay him. But there was something about the pressure of what you were about to step into that made you in that moment, months and months before, go, I'm willing to sacrifice. So what you just said. So tell us why, because really what that is for the listener is maybe what they need to do in the current moment. It's they need to pressurize themselves in a way toward a target, toward something that they want, because that's what gets us into action. And in essence, it's the reason why you started paying off the debt and because you could have done it before. Clearly, you could have stopped doing your nails. You could have door dashed. You could have been more responsible with your money coming in. I mean, you were in sales, so you're making good money. But the reality of it is that you chose in that moment to finally actually do it. Why?
Yeah. You know, I asked myself that question. I have a roommate, and you know, when I started door dashing and I started paying off my medical bills, I even asked her, I'm like, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. And I mean, I would be a lot less stressful right now if I would have. And I think it's because, you know, especially in that salary position and, you know, just making my monthly payments, I was one, comfortable. And two, I didn't have anyone else depending on me. Besides myself and my pug, if you want to count him. I didn't, you know, now I have an installation crew, right? Where if I'm not keeping the company afloat and making this work, what are they going to do? Right. So, and then also I don't have anything else to fall back on. Right. I mean, yes, I have a lot of amazing relationships with previous jobs and companies, and I'm sure I could find something, but not something that's going to be mine. Right. So I don't just have something else to fall back on. Like, this is it. And this has got to work. Like, my mindset, when it changed, it was just like, I don't have the option to fail. So I have to do everything I can right now to make this work.
Yeah. I love certain people. I'm sure you've gotten this in your story along the way, because I know I have, because I didn't come from anything either, is that, you know, you got lucky, right? You got lucky, you met the right person. And maybe there's a portion of that that's true. You did get lucky that maybe you met Trey, or that you knew the owner's sons of that franchise and he connected you, but it could also be you probably did some work in the sales process. You probably learned some things through your jobs that allowed you to excel. You talked about having a work ethic that was unmatched. And so it was all those things, all those nights that you were studying or the days that you were traveling around Colorado for your AT&T job that, you know, you were putting in the work, quote unquote, but which prepared you for the moment to work in sales at Trey's office, which then you built the relationship with him where he trusted you, where he was, you know, having to do more than just sales, which then led you to the opportunity that you're in right now, which obviously you're super grateful for. That's what you're saying is that
absolutely,
this is your chance. Like, you got to make it.
And if I would have never, if I 100% would not be where I'm at today if I did not have the work ethic I did, or have, because even with my previous jobs, I mean, Trey would have never kept me. I had seen Trey, when I helped him on the side, hire people on full time on top of me, and they never stayed. Or like, I was part-time and I would like follow up on things that his full-time people weren't doing. And I would just, you know, I'm not one of those people that calls people out, and Trey could just tell by what I was doing. How is this person that's working 4 hours a week selling more than the person I have working 40 hours a week? So
here's your sign.
Right. And so, and there's another dealer, a Forever Lawn dealer, when I was working for Trey, she was just like, I wish I could just clone you. And I said, it is sad. I mean, because even with my AT&T job, part of my job was to hire people. And a lot of people my age, I mean, it is so hard to find people that are actually willing to work for a paycheck and actually work hard, like as in, you know, they care about this business. So
exactly.
That's really what it comes down to, is integrity.
Yeah, it's just a lower standard of excellence. I think that excellence is what's been lost, but not with you. And it was that excellence inside of you along your entire history that gave you then, quote unquote, the luck or the opportunity. And so what would you say right now for the six-figure owner who's trying to get to that $1 million mark? They've been grinding, but
Mhm.
but they've probably been making bad choices. Like if we're going to put you in that category of making bad
Mhm.
choices financially, because now that you could have done it
Mhm.
sooner. And the
Oh
only
yeah.
real reason that you hadn't was because you said you were comfortable. And that's really
Yeah.
where a six-figure owner is potentially, is that he's
Yeah.
been comfortable or she's been comfortable. But that's why she's
Mhm.
or listening right now, is that they don't want to be comfortable anymore. So what do they need to do? What did you do in that moment mentally and then even physically to, okay, let me go to the next level. I need to stop my excuses and start doing it. Whatever. What is that?
You have to take the risks, and taking those risks, it's very scary and it's an uncomfortable feeling. For example, financially, I mean, right now, even with the business, I am still being very frugal to where I'm still making sacrifices for myself. As in, I only put into my personal account what I need to pay bills. The rest stays in the business account. Why? Because I want to get stock on some of the materials instead of ordering them per sale, right? Like
Right.
that's how you're going to grow the business. So
Exactly.
I'm pampering the business more financially than myself. And that's not something that everyone would, because the business is doing really well, right? I could be paying myself a lot more. I could
Yeah.
be, I could be spending more money on going on trips and doing this and doing that because there's things I want to do, right? And I will eventually. But right now, my focus is still making the business number one, which is keeping all of the profits in that account. And just taking the risk when it comes to making that big purchase for the business. Okay. So like when it comes to, buying a truck and trailer is something that I'm looking, it's my next big expense. Typically that's something someone would just continue to push off. Like, oh, we'll do that next summer. Like,
Right.
no, I need to just not do this personally right now so I can do this financially with the business.
Yeah. You've basically not only just taught yourself, because you probably knew it from before, but you've reinforced the discipline in your finance towards growth. And before you have a business, you do things like personal development or books or seminars or things that you do with maybe a marriage retreat or something like that. Like that's how you invest, quote unquote, into yourself so that you can
Mm-hmm.
make good choices. But even
Yep.
more so now, like what you're saying in your business, is that you've got to pick things that are going to grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
Inventory, a truck to carry the inventory, more sales guys,
Mm-hmm.
training for you, training for your business or your team. Like all of those things are going to help you grow. And I'm reiterating what you just said simply because I want the listener to I want it to hit it home because it's exactly how they need to operate. And if they're not operating in that, it's literally probably one of the top 3 reasons why they're not getting to that next level. And so here you are at that level and you're still making those choices, which is probably right because you don't want to read your press clippings too quickly.
Right.
And I was the same way. Like the moment that I wanted to start reading my press clippings, sleeping in a little bit, kind of taking it easy, I knew. I'm like, nope. Let's flip the switch. I gotta get aggressive again,
Yeah. And like, to give you an example, so before I found out that I was taking over the business, me and me and one of my friends were going to go on a road trip to Zion, and it was planned kind of around like right before winter. Like October, I think we were going to go, September, October. Yeah, it was like the month after I found out. And I told my friend, I was like, hey, I'm door dashing right now and I'm just trying to make extra money. Like, I know our trip's not going to be super expensive, but I'm going to have to postpone. Like, this is just the most important thing right now. Let's plan it for another time. So now I actually, we didn't reschedule it. We just kind of canceled it for the moment, but, I'm turning 30 next month and I'm taking a road trip to Zion. And
Nice.
so,
And how much more sweet is that trip going to be now?
oh, it's going to be so much. I would have been so stressed if I financially, not that I won't be, I'm always being a business owner. You're always going to have stressors, but, I would have been so stressed going before I became the owner because, I was trying to pay off those medical bills. In my head, I'm like, oh, spending all this money on gas, this could be paying off part of this medical bill or, so now that's just kind of like, I'm past that and I'm where I can start enjoying small, weekend getaways to the mountains in Colorado, right? Where before I was just stepping away from that because I'm a very outdoorsy person. I'm like, I can sacrifice, 5 months, not, traveling to a mountain town and saving that money on gas and Airbnb if we're not camping or whatever. But now I'm going to start, I'm telling myself, I can start enjoying these things slowly. Now that I took time off of it, I made that sacrifice for while I needed to.
Yeah, 100%. Such valuable tools in and out of the business. The listener should be taking notes if they haven't been. So I want to switch over to our speed round, and I want to ask you some questions that are going to be, kind of quick fire questions.
Okay.
And I think some of what we were just talking about plays into a few of these questions. So it's going to be interesting to get your opinion on these. But if you could only pick one metric in all of the business to track forever and ever, what would it be?
Volume of sales.
Sales.
Volume.
Okay.
Just because if I know what I'm doing volume wise, I know what I'm doing sales wise, money wise, what's coming in profitably. If I can track volume, I can pretty much mentally keep track of everything else as long as I can keep track of volume.
That's right. I'm the same way. My answer is sales. 100% of the time, sales is the lifeblood. If I know what the sales are, the rest of it goes ding, 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 ding in my brain.
Right.
I know the bottom line.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Okay. And so, what book would you recommend for a six-figure owner? This is going to be an interesting question because obviously you went from employee straight to seven-figure owner, but there was still mindset growth that you went through. So I'm so curious of this answer. What book would you recommend?
I really like the book, Shut Up and Listen. That's it. It's actually something that Trey recommended me to read. And this is actually something he had me read before I even knew I was going to take over business, but it really is for business owners. So it's called Shut Up and Listen.
Nice.
Because I think a lot of people, it just really teaches. I'm very quick to speaking. Actually, I used to be very quick to speaking. I have learned to think through things before I speak because I'm a very passionate person. So if something didn't go my way, I would get flustered and I would get heated a little bit. And I would say something that I would probably wouldn't have said 10 minutes later if I would have just given it a second. And I am a talker. And I, as you can tell, I'm a talker. So learning to listen. Not that I wasn't good at it, but doing it more to
Purposely.
people who are working for me. Right. So that would be what I say. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love how you put that in perspective of leading your team because you're right. I mean, of course, you need to listen to clients. You can't find out their needs in the sales process if you're not listening, but you know that from that angle. But now you're not just selling, right? You're leading a team and multiple teams. You got multiple different staff. They're doing different things. And so, you have to be able to listen to them. One of the things, I'll give this to the listener, maybe for you too, but when I was running sales teams many years ago, I had the same problem where I would, at least I knew to tell my new person, hey, I might look, like really focused or intense, but I want you to come ask questions. So that at least they would, right? But while they were asking me questions, I was still like eyes on the screen, just is doing my thing. Which is terrible. And once I realized that, I literally had to turn my chair and sit on my hands and make eye contact with them and say, what can I help you with? What is your question? Because I'm telling you what, like that one little piece of being able to hear them is different than listening.
Absolutely. Because I'm always on sometimes I have 3 screens in front of me, my phone, my iPad, my laptop, and my roommate will be talking to me and I'm doing all these things. And she's like, you're not even hearing me. I'm like, I promise I am, but you're right. I'm not. I need to stop what I'm doing and listen and focus on what you're saying. So
no, it's so true. In fact, I'll give this one to the listener as well, but I even have this language with my wife and my kids are starting to pick up on it too. Cause I'll be doing something, as you know, as a business owner, I'm sure every listener it goes through this to a degree. I got my phone and I might be working 1 second and then the next, like I'm with the family, like, hey, we're hanging out. It's the middle of the day or maybe it's the evening, whatever time, but I might be working and then not working like that. And they know that it's cool. You know, multiple businesses, multiple industries is fine. But they now know that if I'm down here looking on the phone, you can't just talk. Just because I'm in the room doesn't mean I'm listening. And so my wife and I have gotten on the same page in our communication, but my kids are starting to pick up on it. Daddy, do I have your attention? Because that's what I've asked my wife to say. Like, if you're talking to me, just say, do I have your attention? And I will say, because I'll hear that. I'll go, no, you don't. Give me 1 second. Or yes, I'm not doing anything of value. Let me put this down and let me listen to you. But my kids are starting to pick up on that too now. Like, Daddy, do I have your attention? It's just good communication, you know?
No, that makes, yeah. And one of the things, so when I took over, the project manager who stayed, thankfully, Connor, who is awesome. I mean, I view him as a business partner. I told him, one of the things I said to him is, hey, because he's kind of he's definitely not like me. He's very quiet. He is a hard worker, keeps to himself. And I've worked with him for a while, so I knew how he was. And I said, hey, if something bothers you, or say you have an employee you're having issues with, come talk to me. Don't hold in your frustrations, because he would get flustered and hold it in, in the past. I said, talk to me about things. Like, if you're having issues with something, or you want something to look a different way, the installation process better than me. That's what you do. And if there's something we can change or do better with, or if you're just frustrated about something, come talk to me. Like, I'm not going to bite your head off. I want us to be able to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So good. Okay. Do you intentionally network or mastermind with other entrepreneurs now that you've stepped into the ownership role?
Yes. And I actually kind of was prepped for this before I became an owner, because back in the day, Trey was in a magazine, and the magazine, it's like neighborhood magazines, and the magazine would actually have all of the owners, the small business owners that publish in it. They would have monthly lunches where we kind of converse as owners and all that. Yeah. I did that years ago. And then on LinkedIn, as you found me, the person that I knew years ago from that, he said, oh my gosh, you're the owner now? Like, he started asking me questions. He's like, I know you're not in our magazine anymore, but he was like, I would love for you to still come to our monthly meetings and just be involved. So I do that. The guy that I work with marketing, he also has a group of business owners that get together once every 2 months. So I do that as long as my schedule allows me to. It's all about relationships and anything in this life. So just even on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people I connect with that are just local business owners. They're not in my industry, but they're a local business owner. I love, even before I was an owner, I love supporting local restaurants instead of going to a chain. Now I value that even more, being in the position I'm in. But yeah, so I do occasionally go to groups where there's other small business owners. And a lot of them are just, again, not in the field I'm in, but you never know who they're going to know. A lot of them have even said, hey, I want to quote personally, or hey, my friend has 1 million dogs and she hates her lawn. You never know. So yes, I do.
Yeah. And more so, I think from an entrepreneurship perspective, because everything you just described is spot on, but it's from a sales perspective, you as a salesperson, and that's how you've been trained for so many years, is who do I know that can lead to a deal? And as a business owner, you're thinking the same thing, of course, but it's also who do I know that opens doors to a different opportunity or a different relationship, or maybe it's a connection of someone that can teach me something, or it's who you don't know, like you don't know who you don't know, or you don't know what you don't know. And so meeting new people is how you do that. And so I think that's incredible. Okay, last question. If you lost it all, there was no more artificial grass, what would you do?
What we just talked about, I would turn to my relationships. I would not, I wouldn't just go into a dark, because when people lose things, it's sad. It's hard. It's easy to go into a dark hole. Yeah. I would immediately, even if that means I'm just door dashing until I figure something out, I'm going to keep going. I may be upset, but I would keep going in some way. I would never stop working, even if that means I'm reverting, going back to DoorDash just so I, pay small bills until I figure it out. But I would really turn to my relationships is what it would come down to. Because my relationships have gotten me to where literally I am today, is all because of relationships that I have built throughout my career. So if something would come up and I would lose everything, it would come down to my relationships and the people that I've met through the years.
Yeah, I love that. I think the successful entrepreneur understands how to leverage time, how to leverage resource, and how to leverage key relationships. And so you played right into that one. I love it. And so true too. So it has been an absolute pleasure here with you today, Miss Dena Parker. But and so if someone wanted to connect with you, because they want to hear more of your story, or they want to connect with you in a one-on-one scenario, how would they find you?
Yeah, almost every social media platform. LinkedIn, I'm big on professionally. Dena Parker, Dena Parker, LinkedIn. But we also have Instagram, Facebook, Forever Lawn Mile High. Forever Lawn's one word, but Forever Lawn Mile High. You can type that in on Facebook, Instagram. You're gonna find those platforms, and everything comes to me message wise. But that's how you guys could look me or the business up.
That's awesome. You have been incredible. Congratulations on taking over the business this year and already planning for so much growth. I love the story, and you got a lot ahead of you. It's really exciting. Speaking of relationships, I know that eventually this relationship will turn into something as well, because it always does. You know somebody that needs to be on this show, or I know somebody in Denver that needs artificial grass, or something that we don't even understand yet. You never know. So still thankful to meet you, and thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me, and thank you for your time. And I'm sure we will stay connected on LinkedIn, and just another relationship to have. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Gathering the Kings. We hope you got a ton of value today and learned a thing or two about taking your business to 7 figures and beyond. If you desire more and want a community around you to help you get there, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. That's gatheringthekings.com. And I want you to apply for our next Becoming a King 90-day intensive. We are extremely exclusive by nature as a group. What that means is that we're really wanting only the entrepreneurs who take their business and targets super serious to apply. So if that's you, you think you got what it takes to level up your business, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com and apply. And we will see you on the other side.